at the Hurley hearing, which went on for 12 hours, Mr. Chair, it is very clear that the majority of people testified in opposition to the bill, even though many of them support mining. In almost every editorial in the state, the headlines were support mining, don't support this bill. And yet no changes were made in the legislation.
It says we can't consider the quality of the data when determining if it is a complete application or not.
Thank you.
So you can't do that when you're making decisions, right?
Right.
Okay.
The decision on, you mean the permit decision at the...
Yeah, so all you're saying is that as far as going through the entire process, when someone submits their data, you are not initially going through and checking the quality, but you will as it goes through the process, right?
Yes, and in many cases, there is a change in that we can't, that we need to rely on their data also. So,
Right.
but what I'm saying, though, is that some of the data we can question and other data we cannot under this bill. It says we cannot question the adequacy of the data. And so I couldn't say you cannot have a permit because this data is not adequate in certain circumstances.
This isn't our law. We just happen to be first in line.
Right.
And for us to put in all the contingencies and all the possible events and all the possible concerns within a particular law, then you've got a law that's so massive nobody understands it. And I think what is in front of the committee today is a fairly clean approach.
And this legislation preserves the air and water quality standards for anything coming off the site. There's the standards are the same for groundwater, air quality, both federal standards and state standards.
Getting back to your question about the air and water quality, it doesn't lower the standards. And I don't know where you're coming from with this terminology that, well, I understand that, but the standards are not lowered for the permitting, Senator.
The underlying air and water quality standards do not change.
I'm concerned about the statement that was made that there are no lowering of air and water standards when it has been stated in the documents provided to us by Ledge Council that there is a removal of standards. So how is it that you say that statement when these specific statements have been laid out by Ledge Council, and I am concerned thus about our water quality?
I think that was the question. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, since I said that, I made that comment, I'll answer. I stand by my statement. The air and water quality standards are not changed for the state of Wisconsin in this bill.
So I'd like you to elaborate on how you see a real distinction between what has been said by some today, that there aren't any air and water standards, and what's really in this bill and what your concerns are.
What this bill does is generally not to change the state's standards, water quality or air quality standards themselves. Those standards that apply to everybody in the state would suddenly apply to everybody in the state except the mining industry. What it does is it exempts over and over and over again the mining industry and the iron mining industry alone from needing to comply with those standards. For example, the bill authorizes, essentially requires DNR to approve disposing of iron mine wastes in lakes, in streams, in rivers, in wetlands, in floodplains, regardless of the results of this excellent waste characterization process to find out what's in the iron mining waste. It doesn't matter what they find. The DNR needs to allow them to put it in any of those places, regardless of whether it's going to cause flooding, regardless of whether it's going to then leach into the waters. Similarly, and it overrides all the floodplain and shoreline zoning requirements in the state. Similarly, under the bill, water withdrawal for iron mining must be approved by DNR under the bill. The state standards governing water withdrawals applicable to everyone other than iron mining don't get changed a bit. No, each of the people who said those standards aren't being changed told you the truth. They didn't tell you the P was under the other cup. They let the standards there, but said iron mining doesn't have to comply. That's why DNR must approve water withdrawals from rivers, from streams, from lakes, or from groundwater at any location. It doesn't have to be on the mining company's property. It doesn't even have to be next door. They want to take water from any of those places in the state, it's a statewide piece of legislation, in any quantity. They get a pass. And it even says, even if that will result in the wells that already exist, the lakes that currently exist, the rivers, the streams, or wetlands, dry up. Read the bill. It says that. It says all those things. The standards aren't changed. The DNR standards, they're designed to protect health, to protect the environment, that so much of a bad thing in the water is too much. Those don't change. Just for the mining industry, we're not going to require it to be met.
Sitting in the audience as a scientist, there's a lot of confusion in what I hear about the word ferrous versus the word sulfide. This is not a scientific manner in how the committee and the public have been talking about this, and it's kind of frustrating. So ferrous has been used to mean iron ore, and sulfide has been used to mean sulfide ore. This hides the fact that there are sulfide minerals in the iron ore itself. The committee is not talking about this, and the bill will treat the waste rock from this mine as though it does not contain the sulfide minerals. Representative Tiffany testified that the chemicals to process sulfide won't be needed since we're mining ferrous oxide, and we've taken one of the risks out, but this is a lie. He also says that this is a 21st century mining bill and not like the 19th century mining bills. The fact is their mining was safer. It took millions of years to concentrate the iron at the surface, and that iron is a lot like this, where it's mostly iron. That's been removed. That's the frosting, and all we have left is the cake, and the cake is not that good to eat, and the cake's actually better in Minnesota. I'd like to be asked a lot more questions about the science. I probably know the most about these rocks than anybody in this room, and you guys should really go up there and check them out. Thank you.
I'd like to pick up where Jason left off. Like Jason, I'm a geochemist, PhD geochemist, and I've studied the oxidation of iron in aqueous systems. I have personally analyzed a sample from the core taken about 10 miles east of the easternmost extent of this mine, and it is 20% pyrite. Some of this pyrite, some of this shale has iron concentrations in the form of pyrite that rival the iron concentrations in the ore itself. You're talking about possibly hundreds of millions of gallons, billions of gallons of sulfuric acid being produced. And the pyrite also tends to concentrate toxins such as selenium and arsenic that also will be released.
Can you just explain the significance of having pilings with pyrite in it that could create sulfuric acid, and just explain the environmental consequences of that?
Pyrite is ferrous sulfide, FeS2, and it is unstable, thermodynamically unstable on the Earth's surface. You mix it with water and oxygen, it oxidizes, and it oxidizes to produce sulfates, particularly sulfuric acid. These rocks have been sitting here for 1.8 billion years, weathering very, very slowly, and you're talking now about accelerating that process by a factor of millions and releasing, over the course of a few years, a sulfate load that normally would take many millions of years to be released. So you're going to be swamping the ability of the natural ecosystem to deal with this excess sulfate load. And I just don't know how, when you're were talking about cubic kilometers of rock, and how there's any hope of managing the runoff from that. It's just beyond me. That science has not advanced to the point where we can do the impossible.
I think of it in terms of city of Milwaukee. If there's a neighbor, and I just ask you to personalize this and internalize this for a second, if you were going to poison your neighbor's baby by the activities in your yard, how would you approach that? If you had the potential to poison your neighbor's babies for the next 500 years in your neighbor's yard, how would you approach that activity in your lawn? I would imagine you would think long and hard about not doing that activity in your yard. As you've already heard, there's sulfide minerals in the Pinocchio Hills. Sulfide minerals bleed sulfuric acid when exposed to air and water. Now, how would that kill future babies of Bad River? Well, there's more than that. There's heavy metals that leach into groundwater. And if you look and you had the time, and I know you don't have the time, and it's tragic to me that you don't have the time to look into this, you would find that the footprint of the Pinocchio Hills sits over the recharge station for the groundwater aquifers of Bad River. It's that simple. Heavy metals, mercury release, air particulates. We could talk sulfuric acid leaching into groundwater and surface water. Hydrological fluctuation, where our river, who knows what's going to happen? Is it going to go dry? Will our groundwater aquifer go dry because of the millions upon millions of gallons it'll take every day for GTAC to operate? And I see they're already trying to buy water from Ironwood, Michigan. Can they buy enough? How's that water going to be used? You guys don't have enough time to answer these questions, and you're shortening a permit process down that is supposed to get into things like that.
You talked about consultation, and I'm wondering if anybody from the Walker administration, from the company, or from the legislators who drafted this bill consulted with you when they were drafting this.
No. I find it interesting that you'd mentioned a mining company consulting with us to draft this bill. First of all, I didn't know that they were drafting this bill, but the mining company hasn't consulted with us. Governor Walker, in a couple of quarterly meetings, when I've tried to talk to him about mining as an issue, tried to talk to him about some of the legislative activities, he distanced himself very quickly and told me that the legislators have their own minds and that I need to talk and reach out to them.
And did any legislators talk to you?
I've talked with...
the ones who've authored this bill?
No.
But what I want to leave you with, before I even read my concerns, is that would each of you please find something beautiful today? I don't care if it's a child's face or if it's something outside. It's the antidote to all the bad stuff here.
I'm really concerned also about the high-capacity wells that they possibly will be drilling. I lived in Calumet County this summer. We have a lot of large-scale farms, a lot of large-scale dairy farms, pumping lots and lots and lots of water out of our limestone aquifer. Our aquifer is oxidized. Arsenic came to the top of the soil. Our cancer rates are off the charts. Everyone we know has cancer. So thank you for your time. Thank you for not rolling your eyes, all of you. And can I get a mic check? Mic check! Resist! Resist! Resource! Resource! Colonialism! Colonialism! Because that's what the mine is. It's resource colonialism of the Native people.
Hi, my name is Thistle Pedersen, and I'm a kindergartner teacher right here on the Isthmus, and I'm here to just speak out against this mining bill. My kindergartners could understand that this process has not been a fair process. And so when the WMC guy was talking about how we're confused and how this is so complex, I'm not confused. This is not complex. It's simple. Big business has taken over our government, and they intend to make big money off of destroying the water.
That's right.
So, thank you.
I also am concerned about the process with this bill, at which I am speaking against. The process has not been transparent, and now it's been transformed into something that completely disrespects the people whose lives will be affected by this. It appears that this bill was written by and for one company. I want to be assured by all of you, each one of you, Senator Grothman, you in particular, I want to be assured that this is not going to be a deal that's been hashed out and sealed over a piece of pie over at the Inn on the Park. I want to know that this is something that will honor, a process that will honor the generations of people, past, present, and future, for whom this land is and the water are their very existence. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
And right now I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened on Wednesday afternoon. The afternoon, the public of Wisconsin was given this message. It is time to set politics aside and create jobs. If discussing our public health, natural resources, and the sovereignty of our First Nations is politics, then politics has truly been cast aside. The rights of Wisconsin citizens are being placed second to the interest of business.
Bad River speaks for me. I'm terrified. And you know what I'm terrified most of? The rubber stamp. Yeah. I have seen the rubber stamp all year, and it's marched through my state. And I was in the assembly last night. I saw what happened. You weren't. I am terrified. The rubber stamp and all of the lies. I have a list of lies. I don't have time to read it because I only have 30 seconds because Mr. Voss is inconvenienced by the public. But this will catch up. This will and is catching up to you.
Recall.
Thank you.
When the reins of power are in our hands, can we govern the desire to get through what we want done immediately? Or do we have enough self-control to respect process, listen to the people, do it right, maybe not even do it at all?
Take care. Nice weekend. You want to be ashamed of yourself, Robin.
Yeah, whatever.